When intentionally using the law of attraction to create a life by design, some of the information can seem tricky to implement. We're often told not to focus on what we don't want, which can make it even more difficult to stop focusing on those things. If something is a present reality, and we don't want to have it as a present reality, it seems to be even more strenuous not to think about it because of how we feel about its presence. When efforts don't work, and what is wanted isn't showing up, many people give up way too soon. At this point, they will often say that the law of attraction just doesn't work for them, or maybe anyone for that matter. However, in all likelihood, it is not your fault if your manifestation efforts didn't produce the results you were hoping for. It's more likely due to the way your mind has been previously programmed to frame what is happening around you. The idea behind visualizing a certain outcome is to bring into physical reality that imagined result. By investing mental power into the visualization, there is the intent to create the unseen as the seen. However, when what you don't want is already the physical reality that is being experienced, and that reality has intense feeling states attached to it, the mind will often see this as a conflict because of how real your actual reality seems to it. Here's the problem for most. If a person tells themselves not to focus on what they don't want, their brain will automatically focus on what they don't want. It takes a great deal of effort to try to not focus on something that is causing frustration, stress, or anxiety. The reason for this is that frustration, stress, and anxiety carry a great deal of power. And this is why it is so difficult to remove oneself from the emotional grasp that these states have on both their mindset and physiology. So the only way to solve this manifestation block is to take the power away from those unwanted things. Without implementing this step first, all other creative attempts are incapable of producing the full results desired. Once the power is taken away from the emotional focus on what is undesired, and resistance is released, manifestation efforts are transformed into full creative power. Here are 4 ways to take the power away from what you don't want so your manifestation efforts can create what you desire from life. Number 1. Don't attempt to ignore what is bothering you by trying to block it from your mind or trying to visualize what you want even harder. When you do this, you carry a vibration of resistance. By trying harder, you are actually placing more focus and attention on what you don't want, and matching the feeling states that keep those things in your reality. If visualizing, meditation, or any other process that you're using to manifest what you want feels like a chore, simply don't do it in that moment. Number 2. Be curious about the negative feelings you're having. Ask yourself where they are coming from. Is there a belief that you don't have the power to transform your circumstances? And if so, trace that belief back to your childhood if you're able to. Maybe you were told as a child that you couldn't have what you want. And even though it wasn't necessarily said to you with malice, it's stuck in your subconscious mind as a belief that you no longer need to carry. Tell that child version of yourself that this is no longer true and that you really can have anything you want from life. Do this repeatedly until you can tell that this belief is being formed. Number 3. Respect the power that your circumstances and related frustrations have, and reframe the meaning of what is happening. In other words, it could be that knowing more of what you don't want is helping you to refine your intended goal with great detail. Maybe you haven't considered the highest expression of what you really want, and this is the opportunity for you to contemplate what that might be and fine-tune it with more detail. Give in to what you don't want by asking yourself what this thing makes you realize you do want more of. By doing this, you take a tremendous amount of power away from it because you've chosen to understand what good it is offering you in the form of new knowledge. Number 4. Change your state of being. If you are feeling overwhelmed by stress regarding something you don't want, Ask yourself what you can do immediately to give yourself relief from those feelings. In other words, what could you do in that current moment to change the way you're thinking and feeling? Could you go for a jog or a bike ride? Could you call some friends and go have lunch? Could you meditate or take a walk in nature? The point is to shift your vibration into a neutral or positive state so that you can begin to attract more of that to yourself. Even the slightest bit of relief shifts you into a more powerful state that creates vibrational motion that is more positive. This begins to release resistance, which in turn tunes your frequency higher and higher. Once this happens, you become a cooperative component to higher thoughts and feeling states, and the more you practice that, the easier it becomes to produce them. By consciously changing your mindset, you can begin to emit a more positive frequency that will attract things that are of a like frequency. If your current point of focus is on something that you don't want, relax into it and realize that there is a way to take your power back. When you acknowledge that the resistance is there, you can begin to work through it and let it go. Once this happens, your other manifestation efforts will be amplified rather than giving you the feeling of working uphill for what you want. These processes assist in reframing the situation, which in turn rewires your brain to create more resourceful cognitive changes that empower your efforts and propel you towards success.